I've really had a good time in Maryland, and when I've come down here, Alicia's taken me by the hand, and Stevenson University, the training that we did with a bunch of you back in March, and then a couple of days ago at Bryn Mawr School for Girls. You know, I look at this process, and I look at my life as before my daughter was killed, and then after she was killed. And that's sort of like a turning point in my life. And I remember the last conversation I had with Casey the night before she was killed, and I'd asked her a question. And she answered that question, yes. And the question that I'd asked her was, Casey, are you happy? And that's something that we can hold on to, and that helps. My wife, who's down here, many of you have met, has been with me the whole time, and she's an incredible support in this campaign. We don't have the comfort of knowing that Casey died instantly, because she didn't. And when we talked to the emergency people, they told us what her last words were. And her last words were, "I want my mom." And for those of you who've seen the U.S. Department of Transportation PSA that we prepared for Secretary LaHood, you know what my wife says in there when she heard that, but I'll tell you what she said. She said, what will it take for us to change the way we drive? And from my perspective, there's no better group. There's no better group than trial lawyers, committed trial lawyers, to go out and to talk to the teens and to talk to our young people about distracted driving. There's just no better group. Next week, sometime next week, the 200,000th teen will have seen our presentation. It's going to happen someplace next week. We have presentations that have gone on in 41 states. Nova Scotia, we're going to be going to British Columbia, working with the trial lawyers in British Columbia to do a Canadian presentation for them. We're now working with 24 different state trial lawyers associations. And I consider myself, I really do, I consider myself so very, very fortunate. I get to come here, and you guys are so warm and welcoming. I get to have your help in remembering Casey. And as a parent who's lost a child, there was a time when I feared that Casey would be forgotten. Her short life wouldn't make a difference. She didn't marry, she won't have children. But I don't have that fear anymore, and it's because of trial lawyers. And some people say to me, they say, well, how is it that you're able to jump on board this so quickly and start to do something? And I say, it's because I'm a trial lawyer. I remember the night before Casey's funeral, two of my clients came to the, I guess you call it a receiving line, do you, the funeral? Receiving, yeah, well, whatever it was. They came, and one of them, they both lost their children in alcohol-related cases, and I've represented them. And one of them was a man, he lost his daughter, he turned inward. He turned bitter, he was angry at life. And he came up to me and he hugged me and we cried. And as I was looking over his shoulder, I saw the mom whose son had been killed. And she was just the opposite. She had turned outward. She had set up a foundation. She was working with MAJ. And I almost think in that moment, I almost think that she had a little, almost half smile for me. So as he was whispering in my ear, Joel, it never gets better, it never will, I saw her, and I thank God for that. And I'd start a master's program in counseling because I felt with my clients who'd lost children, particularly these two, that I wasn't a good enough support. I didn't think I supported them well enough, and I wanted to find out how to support people better who were grieving. So one message I have for all of us is, we represent clients who are terribly injured. They have their, whether it's death or serious injury, if it's death, they have their grief, their mourning process, but if they don't get the social support they need because we're awkward, we're uncomfortable as a society, you add isolation onto the grief. We as trial lawyers are absolutely 100% within the support networks of our clients, and we should be. There's an absence of empathy, there's an absence of understanding, and when we have that loss and the isolation is placed upon it, it's worse. Anybody who has a client who's lost a family member, send them a card on the anniversary of their death. Tell them you're thinking about them on this day, and they'll be very, very thankful. So I looked and I saw that Mr. Walton was one of the original members of Trial Lawyers Care, and that was after 9/11, working out and helping families. One of the things that I'm proudest of is that I'm a member of Trial Lawyers Care. Last year I was appointed. It's one of the best committees that I've ever been on. So I think it's kind of neat that I'm getting this award from someone who had started the process, and now I'm here to kind of carry it on. But today, drunk driving is not socially acceptable. With your help, going out in the community, as was said, one person at a time, one day distracted driving will no longer be socially acceptable, and it'll be great to look back and know that trial lawyers here in Maryland and trial lawyers all across the country were part of that process. So thank you so very, very much. I really appreciate it.